The lonely and desperate elderly man, forgotten by his children, finds hope when a luxurious car stops next to him. In a small American town, Henry Wallace, a brilliant and lonely inventor, has his life changed by an unexpected encounter with a young admirer and his grandson. Together, they embark on a transformative journey filled with surprising discoveries and emotional challenges that test their courage and determination. Follow this exciting journey of invention, love, and hope, and discover how family bonds can transform lives and realize dreams. In the heart of a small American town lived Henry Wallace, a 78-year-old inventor. His hair was white as snow, and his hands, calloused from years of creating inventions, trembled slightly with age. Henry was a man of great intelligence and creativity, but loneliness and silence were his most constant companions since the death of his beloved wife, Martha, 5 years ago. Henry's house was a true workshop of inventions. Every corner was occupied by curious devices, some unfinished, others working perfectly. Clocks with hands that moved in unusual patterns, small machines that played soft melodies, and robots that could do simple household tasks. These creations were Henry's only company, as his children were too busy with their own lives to visit him regularly. Henry had 3 children, David, Ellen, and Michael. David was a successful lawyer in New York, Ellen a businesswoman in Los Angeles, and Michael a doctor in Chicago. Since Martha's death, the children's visits had become rare and brief, as if they were always in a hurry, with no time for their father. The connection that once existed between Henry and his children seemed to have dissolved in the mist of time and distance. Despite the loneliness, Henry found some comfort in his grandson, Jake, who was studying engineering in Boston. Jake was the only one who shared his grandfather's passion for invention and technology, but he didn't know that Henry was living in difficult conditions. To Jake, his grandfather was an inspiring figure, a genius whose house was filled with technological wonders. One day, while working in his workshop, Henry received a letter announcing a local science fair. It was an opportunity to sell some of his inventions and earn some extra money. Henry decided to participate despite his fragile health and constant fatigue. He spent sleepless nights preparing his creations, polishing them, and ensuring they were in perfect working order. On the day of the fair, Henry packed his inventions into an old, rusty truck and drove to the town center. The fair was filled with enthusiastic and curious young people, all presenting their own inventions and scientific projects. Henry felt a bit out of place amid so much youthful energy, but he remained firm, hoping someone would take an interest in his creations. As the afternoon wore on and Henry began to lose hope, a luxurious car stopped next to his booth. A well-dressed young man with a curious and determined look got out. The young man approached, examining Henry's inventions with great interest. "Are you Henry Wallace, the great inventor?" asked the young man with a smile on his face. "Yes, I am," replied Henry, surprised by the approach. "My name is Alex Johnson. I have always admired your inventions. You have been a great inspiration to me. In fact, I became an inventor because of you." Henry was stunned. It was rare to meet someone who recognized his work, especially a successful young man. Alex continued, "I would like to buy all your inventions. I want to ensure you have the comfort you deserve. Besides, I want you to keep inventing. The world needs brilliant minds like yours." Henry's eyes filled with tears. After years of loneliness and despair, someone finally recognized his worth. The hope he thought was lost began to be reborn in his heart. Returning home was different this time. Henry felt lighter, as if an invisible weight had been lifted from his shoulders. With the money received from selling his inventions to Alex Johnson, he managed to make some improvements to his house and workshop. Small things like fixing the leaking roof and installing a more efficient heating system made a big difference in his daily comfort. The following days were filled with intense activity for Henry. Inspired by the meeting with Alex, he began working on new projects, his mind buzzing with ideas. However, even with new energy, loneliness still accompanied him. He wished his children could see what he was accomplishing, but he knew it was unlikely. One day, while working on a new prototype, Henry received an unexpected call. It was Jake, his grandson. "Grandpa," said Jake with excitement in his voice. "I heard you were at a science fair recently and sold some of your inventions." "That's amazing." Henry smiled, feeling proud. He told Jake about the meeting with Alex and how it had rekindled his passion for invention. Jake was amazed and promised to visit his grandfather the next time he had a break from university. A few days later, Henry received a letter that would change the course of events. It was an invitation from Alex Johnson to visit his laboratory in New York. Alex wanted Henry to see the facilities and meet the team working to turn his inventions into commercial products. Henry, initially hesitant, eventually accepted the invitation, seeing it as an opportunity to break out of his lonely routine. The trip to New York was exciting and exhausting. Henry hadn't traveled in years, and the big city intimidated him a bit. However, the warm reception from Alex and his team made him feel welcome. The laboratory was a true paradise for any inventor. Modern, well-equipped, and full of bright young minds. During the visit, Henry discovered that Alex had become a successful inventor thanks to the inspiration he found in the old man's creations. Alex revealed that when he was a child, he had found one of Henry's old manuals at a used book fair, and it changed his life. He followed in the inventor's footsteps, studying engineering and eventually creating his own innovation lab. Henry was deeply moved. He never imagined that his inventions could have such a significant impact on someone's life. However, this revelation brought a feeling of sadness. He thought of his own children, who seemed to have forgotten him and his creations. That night, while staying in a hotel, Henry decided to call his children. It was time to try to reconnect with them, to show them there was still much to share. The conversations were difficult. David, Ellen, and Michael were all busy with their lives, and the call was brief and formal. Henry felt a pang in his heart. He wondered if there was anything he could do to mend the bonds with his family. Back at the lab, Henry and Alex began working together on new projects. Alex insisted that Henry stay in the city for a few more weeks to collaborate directly with the team. Henry, despite missing his home, accepted the proposal. The days were productive and full of learning. Henry felt rejuvenated, as if he were young again. However, something unexpected happened. During a visit to a science fair, where Henry was presenting his new creations alongside Alex, a familiar face appeared in the crowd. It was Jake. He was there by chance, visiting the fair with some university colleagues. When he saw his grandfather at the booth, he couldn't believe it. Jake ran to Henry, his eyes full of surprise and concern. "Grandpa, what are you doing here?" he asked, hugging his grandfather. Henry explained the whole story, from meeting Alex to collaborating in the lab. Jake listened attentively, but there was something in his eyes that worried Henry. "Grandpa, I didn't know you were going through so much difficulty. Why didn't you tell me anything?" Jake asked, his voice full of concern. Henry tried to reassure him, but Jake was determined. He knew something had to be done to improve his grandfather's situation. Escalation of tensions. Jake began visiting Henry more frequently, especially on weekends and holidays. The young engineer was determined to help his grandfather and, at the same time, learn from him. Jake was impressed by Henry's dedication and creativity, and together they began working on new projects. Jake's presence brought new energy to Henry's life, but it also revealed the precarious state in which the elderly man lived. During one of these visits, Jake noticed that Henry's house and workshop needed urgent repairs. The grandson decided it was time to act. He knew his grandfather deserved to live in better conditions and started thinking of ways to get the necessary resources. Jake spoke to Alex Johnson about Henry's situation. Alex, who already had a deep respect for the inventor, became even more determined to help. he decided to invest in a modern laboratory for Henry, where he could continue his creations with all the necessary resources. This decision was a second turning point that brought renewed hope to Henry and his family. The news of the creation of the new lab quickly reached David, Ellen, and Michael, Henry's children, who had been distant until then, began to realize the importance of their father's work and the influence he had on others. David, the lawyer, decided to visit his father and offer help with the legal aspects of creating the new lab. Ellen, the businesswoman, began thinking of ways to market Henry's inventions. And Michael, the doctor, wanted to ensure his father's health so he could enjoy this new phase of life. When the three children arrived at Henry's house, they were greeted with surprise and emotion. It was the first time in many years that they were all together again. The conversations were filled with memories and feelings, and the children realized how far they had drifted from their father over the years. Henry, in turn, felt grateful to have them back, even if only for a short period. Jake, observing the family reunion, felt a mix of joy and sadness. He knew his uncle's presence was temporary, but hoped this would be an opportunity to reconnect the family more permanently. During a family dinner, Jake had an idea. "Why don't we work together to turn Grandpa's inventions into commercial products?" suggested Jake. "He has so many incredible ideas that could improve many people's lives. With each of your expertise, we could do something truly grand." Jake's suggestion was met with enthusiasm. David offered to handle the legal matters, Ellen proposed using her network of contacts to find investors, and Michael committed to ensuring all inventions complied with safety and health standards. Henry, moved, couldn't believe his family was finally reunited and willing to work together to bring his creations to the world. The following days were filled with intense collaboration. Henry, Jake, Alex, and Henry's children worked tirelessly in the new lab, which was quickly taking shape. The synergy between them was palpable, and each contributed their specific skills to the project's success. However, not everything was easy. There were many challenges to overcome, from the technical feasibility of some inventions to securing enough funding for large-scale production. Amid these challenges, Henry's determination and his family's unity served as fuel to continue. One day, while working on a prototype, Alex revealed a bold idea. "What if we make a presentation for potential investors?" suggested Alex. "We could show not only the inventions but also Henry's life story. I'm sure that would touch people and motivate them to invest." Everyone agreed with the idea. The preparation for the presentation was intense. They created functional prototypes, organized an emotional narrative about Henry's journey, and planned an impactful exhibition. On the day of the presentation, the auditorium was packed with investors and curious onlookers. Henry, despite being nervous, was determined to make his story and inventions known. When he took the stage, he began telling his story, from his early days as an inventor to the recent meeting with Alex and his family's support. The demonstrations of the inventions were met with enthusiastic applause, and many investors showed interest in supporting the project. After the presentation, Henry felt a wave of relief and gratitude. He knew that regardless of the outcome, it was a moment of personal victory. He had overcome years of loneliness and despair, and now he was surrounded by people who believed in him and his work. Later that night, Jake approached his grandfather and said, "Grandpa, I'm so proud of you. Today was incredible. I'm sure this is just the first of many achievements to come." Henry smiled, feeling his heart warmed by the presence of his grandson and family. The presentation to the investors was a success, and interest in Henry's work grew exponentially. The following weeks were filled with meetings, contracts, and agreements. Henry was busier than ever, but this time he had the support of his family and new friends like Alex and his team. The construction of the new lab was completed in record time. It was a modern building equipped with the latest technologies and tools Henry could never have imagined. The lab was a true sanctuary for innovation, and Henry couldn't wait to start working on his creations with all the resources at his disposal. Jake and Alex were the first to collaborate with Henry in the new lab. They spent hours discussing ideas, developing prototypes, and testing new technologies. The synergy between them was evident, and each day brought new advances. Jake, in particular, was thrilled to work so closely with the grandfather he so admired. Meanwhile, Henry's children began to get more actively involved in the project. David used his legal skills to ensure all patents and business agreements were in order. Ellen started exploring potential markets and making connections with investors and companies interested in Henry's inventions. Michael, with his medical knowledge, helped develop health-focused products, ensuring they were safe and effective. Everything seemed to be going well, but one day, an unexpected discovery brought a new twist to the story. While organizing some of Henry's old documents, Jake found a series of letters and drawings he didn't recognize. They were hidden in a wooden box, covered in dust, and forgotten in a corner of the workshop. Upon reading the letters, Jake discovered they were from an old colleague of Henry's, a man named Robert, who was also an inventor. The letters revealed a collaboration between Henry and Robert on a revolutionary project that, for some reason, was never completed. Jake was intrigued and took the letters to his grandfather. Henry, seeing the letters, was visibly moved. He explained to Jake that Robert had been his best friend and invention partner. Together, they were working on a machine that could transform solar energy into electricity extremely efficiently, a project they believed could change the world. However, before they could complete the project, Robert died in a tragic accident, and Henry, devastated by the loss, had set the project aside. Jake and Alex were fascinated by the idea and convinced Henry to resume the project. They knew that with the resources and technology available in the new lab, they could finally bring to life the vision Henry and Robert had many years ago. The work on the project was intense. Days and nights blended as Henry, Jake, and Alex dedicated themselves to solving technical challenges and refining the machine's design. The team faced numerous obstacles, but their determination was unwavering. They knew they were working on something that could significantly impact the future of sustainable energy. Finally, after months of hard work, the prototype was ready to be tested. The tension was palpable as the team gathered in the lab for the first test. Henry, with hands trembling with emotion, turned on the machine. There was a moment of silence as everyone waited, and then, with a soft hum, the machine began to work. The solar energy captured by the panels was converted into electricity extremely efficiently, just as Henry and Robert had planned. The success of the test was a moment of triumph for everyone. Henry felt a wave of relief and joy. He looked at Jake and Alex, his eyes shining with tears of gratitude. "We did it," said Henry, his voice choked with emotion. Robert would be so proud. The news of the invention's success quickly spread. The local and national media began covering the story of the elderly inventor who, with the help of his family and friends, had created a revolutionary machine. The attention brought new investors and opportunities, but also new challenges. Everyone knew they had to work hard to bring the invention to market and ensure its impact was as significant as possible. During a family meeting, Jake brought up an idea he had discussed with Alex. "What if we formed a family business to develop and market Grandpa's inventions?" suggested Jake. "Each of us could contribute our specific skills, and we could ensure Grandpa's legacy continues for generations." The proposal was met with enthusiasm. David, Ellen, and Michael agreed to join the project, and together they began planning the next steps. The family business was officially founded, and the chosen name was Wallace Innovations, in honor of the family patriarch. With the company established, Henry felt he had finally found his place. He was no longer alone. He had his family by his side and a renewed purpose. The inventions he created were not just machines. They were the legacy he would leave to the world and his family. With Wallace Innovations officially founded, Henry's life transformed in ways he never imagined. The new lab was fully operational, and the company had already attracted the attention of various investors interested in funding the family's innovative projects. Henry, surrounded by his children, grandson, and friends, felt revitalized and full of purpose. Jake and Alex, now inseparable partners in the venture, worked hard to develop and perfect Henry's inventions. They were particularly focused on making the solar energy machine accessible to the public. Energy efficiency and sustainability were topics of great global interest, and Henry's invention could be the key to a greener and more sustainable future. Meanwhile, David, Ellen, and Michael played crucial roles in the company. David managed the legal and financial aspects, ensuring all contracts and patents were in order. Ellen used her business experience to create marketing strategies and find new commercial partners. Michael, with his medical knowledge, helped develop health-focused products, ensuring they were safe and effective. Despite the progress, the family faced significant challenges. One of the main investors was hesitant to sign the final contract, citing concerns about the long-term viability of the solar energy machine. Henry knew this investment was crucial to bring his invention to market and felt the pressure mounting. One day, while working in the lab, Alex had an idea. "Henry, what if we do a public demonstration of the machine?" suggested Alex. "We could show investors and the general public how the technology works and its benefits. This could dispel any doubts and generate more interest." Henry thought for a moment and agreed. It was a risky idea, but he knew it was necessary to secure the company's and his invention's future. The preparation for the public demonstration was intense. The team worked tirelessly to ensure everything was in order. On the event day, the lab was filled with journalists, investors, and curious onlookers. Henry, nervous but determined, took the stage to present the machine. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here today," began Henry, his voice firm despite his age. "This machine represents years of work and collaboration. With it, we believe we can change how the world generates and consumes energy." With a gesture, he activated the machine. There was a moment of silence as everyone waited, and then, with a soft hum, the machine began converting solar energy into electricity extremely efficiently. The audience applauded enthusiastically, and journalists began taking photos and making notes. After the demonstration, Henry was approached by several investors interested in funding the large-scale production of the machine. Among them was the investor who had been hesitant. He approached Henry with a smile. "Mr. Wallace, I'm impressed. This demonstration dispelled all my doubts. I'm ready to sign the contract and invest in your project." Henry felt a wave of relief and gratitude. The demonstration had been a success, and he knew he was on the right path to realizing his dream of bringing his inventions to the world. While the family celebrated the demonstration's success, a new twist emerged. Jake, examining some of Henry's old documents, found a letter from Robert, Henry's deceased friend. In the letter, Robert mentioned a crucial discovery he had made shortly before his death. The discovery was related to a significant improvement in the efficiency of the solar energy machine, something Henry and the team had not yet considered. Jake brought the letter to his grandfather, who was surprised and moved upon reading it. Robert's letter contained technical details that could further increase the machine's efficiency. With this new information, Henry and the team began working immediately to implement the improvement. Robert's discovery brought a new wave of enthusiasm and hope. The machine, already impressive, now had the potential to be even more revolutionary. Henry felt a deep gratitude for his late friend and a renewed determination to honor his legacy. With the improvement implemented, the family decided to hold a second public demonstration. This time, the event attracted even more attention, with journalists and investors from around the world. The machine worked perfectly, and the audience was amazed by the innovation. The success of the second demonstration secured a significant influx of investments, allowing Wallace Innovations to begin large-scale production. Henry, Jake, Alex, and the rest of the family were more united than ever, working together to turn Henry's inventions into reality. That same day, after the demonstration, Henry was surprised by an unexpected visit. It was Robert's grandson, who had heard about the demonstration and wanted to meet the man who had worked with his grandfather. "Mr. Wallace, my name is Peter," said the young man, shaking Henry's hand. "My grandfather always spoke about you and the project you worked on together. I wanted to thank you for continuing his work and honoring his legacy." Henry, moved, thanked Peter and promised to keep working to realize the vision he and Robert had. The following months were a whirlwind of activities and achievements for Henry and his family. Wallace Innovations established itself as an innovative and respected company, and its inventions began to gain worldwide recognition. The solar energy machine, now optimized with Robert's discovery, was about to be launched on the market, promising a revolution in how the world generated and consumed energy. Henry's life changed significantly. He was no longer the lonely and desperate old man forgotten by his children. Now, surrounded by his family and friends, he felt a new joy and purpose in every day. Henry's house and workshop had been completely renovated, and he had moved to a new residence near the lab, equipped with everything he needed to continue his creations. One day, while working on a new invention, Henry was interrupted by the arrival of Jake and Alex. The two young men were excited, and Henry knew something important had happened. "Grandpa, we have a surprise for you," said Jake with a smile. Henry followed them to a room in the lab where a large screen was set up. When the screen lit up, he saw a live broadcast of a sustainable energy conference in Paris. On stage, a conference representative was announcing the winner of the Technological Innovation of the Year award. And the winner is Wallace Innovations for the revolutionary solar energy machine, announced the representative, as the audience applauded enthusiastically. Henry was speechless. He never imagined his inventions would go so far. Tears streamed down his face as he absorbed the magnitude of the recognition. Jake and Alex hugged him, and everyone celebrated together. As the conference continued, Henry reflected on his journey. He thought of his beloved Martha, the years of loneliness, and how everything changed with the unexpected encounter with Alex. He felt a deep gratitude for having had the opportunity to share his creations with the world and for having his family reunited. David, Ellen, and Michael were also present at the celebration. They, who had been distant before, were now integral to the success of Wallace Innovations. Each had found a new purpose, working together to bring Henry's creations to life. That night, after the celebration, Henry sat with his family in the garden of his new house. The stars shone in the sky, and the air was filled with a sense of peace and contentment. Henry looked at his children, grandson, and friends, feeling deeply grateful to have them by his side. "I want to thank all of you," said Henry, his voice full of emotion. "You brought light into my life when I needed it most. I never thought I would see my inventions come to life this way. This was only possible because we were together." David, Ellen, and Michael held their father's hands, each feeling the same gratitude and love. Jake and Alex smiled, knowing they were part of something truly special. Henry continued to work on his inventions, always with the same passion and curiosity that had accompanied him throughout his life. The lab was a place of constant innovation, where new ideas were explored and developed. Jake and Alex became his trusted partners, and together, they continued to seek ways to improve the world through technology. Wallace Innovations grew, and with it, Henry's reputation as one of the greatest inventors of his time. But for Henry, the greatest success was the reconnection with his family and the new life he had found alongside them. One day, near the end of his journey, Henry received a letter from a young engineering student who had heard about his inventions. The letter was full of admiration and gratitude, and the young man mentioned how Henry had inspired him to follow his dreams. Henry smiled as he read the letter, feeling deep satisfaction. He knew his legacy was not just the machines he had created, but the lives he had touched and the minds he had inspired. That night, as the sun set, Henry looked at the horizon, feeling deep peace in his heart. He knew he had left a lasting mark on the world and that his journey, full of challenges and triumphs, had been truly extraordinary.